So let's talk about the chain hotels. Here we have systems, we have processes, they have proper training systems that go from their corporate level. With the international chain hotels, SOPs and training, they don't have so much flexibility to change. Let's say there is a new leadership concept. Okay, they cannot just adapt it because it has to come from the international headquarter HQ. Then it has to come down to the regional HQ. And then down it has to come to the national HQ. Then it has to come to that Unico. So it's really hard to change a particular system. However, now if you come to the independent hotels, they have the freedom because they built the systems. So they were the one who owned the systems. So they can say, okay, that's leadership, new leadership, let's try it. If it doesn't work, let's dump it up, let's bring a new style. So they can really have the flexibility. If they use this flexibility to their advantage, it will be really powerful because that's what the chain hotels, their competitors, cannot do. So here's the competitive edge that they can bring out.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Schulering Hub Talking Hospitality podcast. I'm your host, Mauricio, and today we will explore the leadership challenges reshaping hospitality with a former Special Forces commander and a young genius who started his first business at the age of 11, and by 15, he was teaching coding to MBA graduates. And together they opened the luxury hospitality leadership training company, Impact. Yes. Ki, Bro, and Kovid, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot. Thanks very much, Maurizio.
Look, you both have a very interesting story. And when I think about leadership, and I think that I'm not alone on that, I really think about the army. I really think about special forces. And I will start with you, Kim, because as a former Special Forces commander and training people, what does it take to become into the army and to become a Special Forces agent, if I can call?
Okay, thanks for not saying secret agent. Yeah, I mean, army is principally very famous for leadership. And of course, you have to lead your troop and you have to lead people. Now, that was my experience in the army also. And I got into leadership positions at a quite young age. So that encouraged me later on also to get into leadership in the corporate sector and especially in the hospitality sector. I mean, it was not only the experience in the German Air Force, there were other factors also. For example, one was I joined one organization in Germany, one foundation, and it was very difficult, frankly, to get into this because not everybody gets the chance. And in this prestigious foundation, I got the opportunity to learn about leadership, about philosophy, about ethics, and all in that subject around. And that really gave me the base of what we are doing today now. One time I went to Borneo, and that was for an expedition deep inside the rainforest of Borneo. So here I had no other choice than applying leadership principles because, frankly, it saved the life of our team because we came into very challenging situations. And the hospitality sector is a different sector, but we also can see very challenging situations in the hospitality sector also. So that one expedition shaped me also for my life. And okay, I mean, the formalities, I have my master's in science, in geography and psychology. These are more the boring things. What really shapes our life is experience and to see the importance of leadership, how it can change people and professionalism.
Well done. Like well said. When I think about leadership, as I said, it's that structure that we see in the movies, basically, right? I didn't attend the army training, so you see that how to make a human face the fear of risking their life into a mission to save other people. Right, that must be a deep training, a mindset shaping to achieve that. And I'm really always been fascinated on how can you shape humans to actually do things that are from outside of them. Like what? It's a bigger mission, and it's pretty impressive that you can combine these skills that you learned with what the skills that you learn afterwards and bring that inside hospitality. But how is that really relevant to hospitality?
It is extremely relevant. I also would say that leadership is the core of everything because leaders make the final decision. Now, if leaders are capable to touch the hearts of their followers, then the followers, here in our case, the staff of hospitality, the staff of 4- and 5-star luxury hotels, of any kind of hotel actually, so the staff will be also happy. So if a leader can make the staff very happy, then the happy staff can make the guests also happy. And if the guests are happy, then they will come again and increase the revenue of the hotel. So it's that chain reaction which starts from the top, and the top is leadership. Leadership is essential, number one.
Yeah, and that's well said now. It's top. There's even, I brought some of my research that according to executive.com, 77% of organizations worldwide lack sufficient leadership depth, and trusting managers has dropped from 46% to 29% right now. So there is a problem with leadership, and I don't understand very well if it's a generational issue or is more about leadership skills, but I think that we can get a little bit more into understand that together today. But before that, yes, you have something to say.
Yes, you mentioned very interesting numbers, and just to reply with some other numbers, there are some statistics, and they say that only 11% of all leaders really use their leadership skills. So many things happen here in the background, and also leadership moderates trust, since you mentioned just trust. And leadership moderates trust. So if we have a good level of leadership, then trust will increase. And if there is trust within the teams, then the employee turnover rate will be reduced by half. So trust is immensely important, which is created by leadership.
And talking about trust, right? Because you both founded a company about leadership impact, yes. And yes, we got a little introduction about you, Kim. But then we come to Kovid Panthy. And as a younger, how old are you, Kovid?
21.
21 years old, 10 years already in business, open your first business at the age of 11. And when it comes to trust, it's really hard for top leaders, for top managers to trust someone younger than them. But when you tell your story, people probably start to trusting from the moment you open your mouth. So please, can you share a little bit of your journey on how you got to this 21-year-old leadership trainer today?
Yeah, thanks for the intro, Mauricio. Yes, I started my career when I was 11 years old. But it's been 10 years, a decade of into doing my professional things. But of course, I came at that time from programming background, as you said, coding. So I was very interested in new innovation, technology. I was always interested in innovation. And that entrepreneurship mindset was already there since my childhood, always new things. And then I came to learn about programming because that can really help you to think innovatively and creatively. Then at the age of 13, I started teaching people already. So training was already in my blood at that time. At that time, my first student, or let's say my first student, I was 13 years old. My student at that time was 59 years old, but he was living in USA. So here we see this discrepancy, and you talk about trust. Yeah, definitely. I can relate, and I can go back retrospect. If I retrospect back into that days, it was really hard to get that first one student of the age 59. He had many issues, trust issues, as you mentioned. But I think it's interesting. I mean, if we look into the psychology, because I was also interested in psychology at that time, and I really dissected what were the things that is holding him back. And of course, the number one thing is trust, which you mentioned. Number two was how he thought his perceived value of me. So what he thought of me, that was number two. And number three was, of course, the social norms. We call it normative conformity. So it's that norm that young people are inexperienced. So that norm I think these three things were in his mind. So I tackled these three things with trust. I gave him a no cost first discovery session. So with this discovery session, he could really assess me. So that built trust. With perceived value, I gave him a lot of things which otherwise he would not get in that, session. So the value definitely increased. And the third thing, that normative conformity, I challenged it with my, let's say, change maker mindset, with my newcomer mindset, and with my trendsetting mindset. So he was also shifted at that time with this new generation trying to bring up new ideas. And his idea of norms and normative conformity was shattered. And I think he took it very positively at the end. And by the end, it was very good. So trust, then
just a side remark. Nowadays, when we are in the training hall and the executives of five-star hotels are in front of us in the U-shape, once Kovid starts talking, the executives forget his age. They just trust with a click of 2 ears. So no issues with that.
Sorry to interrupt. If you're enjoying the show and if you are learning something new today, please consider following the show, subscribe to our channel, or leave us a review. It helps us to help more people through the podcast, and it would mean the world to us. Thank you for listening, and we're back on the chat. That's amazing. Of course, I call yourself a young genius, right? Can you tell our audience, because if they don't know you, they never heard about you, what is your story and how did you actually end up at age of 13 being able to get someone to train and building that story that you have behind you, that now you can just stand and people will listen because they trust you from the moment that you speak, because you've learned a lot during your journey as well. You have a lot to share. So can you open up your journey a little bit?
Yes, definitely. As you said, I started my career when I was 11 years old, doing things in programming and tech. Then I eventually started training people. And when I trained people, during that time, I organized one big conference here in Nepal, where I am. So I organized one big conference with 200, 300 participants. And I had approximately around 30, 40 staff members who were helping me in making that event successful. And that was the time when I first realized the power of entrepreneurship. And that was when I was 15 years old. I opened my first company.
Amazing. 15 years old, and you organized an event with 30 people that were supporting you in this event.
That's right. Yeah. May I add something? I mean, Kovid was 15 years old, and his team were maybe how many? 20, 30 people of team, and the age of the team members were all 30 years, 40 years, or like that. Now imagine Kovid as a 15 years old and leading his team, which is much older than him and very successfully leading. So that, I think, showed Kovid also the power of leadership. Yeah, so it was amazing.
That's just fantastic. Just to bring, yes.
Yeah. So after that 15 years, just to add on to our company also, that 15 years, when I started my first company, I realized the power of entrepreneurship and leadership, and also marketing. Because without marketing, I could not sell the tickets of this event. So I had to learn marketing, and that's how I came to marketing. And I consulted maybe around 3,200 plus clients from USA and Europe, especially the business owners and MBA graduates, or mid graduates. And they learned a lot about marketing. Some people even told me that my sessions helped them save from bankruptcy. That was also interesting. And then, of course, just to mention, I am certified by Harvard University and Cambridge University in neuroscience and psychology. And I am also IBM champion because IBM Incorporation, they choose 600 annual people from the whole world. And I was one of them. And I have one book I'm an author also.
Haven't planted a tree yet. I don't know if it's a worldwide, but in Brazil, we say that we have only 3 goals in life. That is to plant a tree, to have a child, to write a book. So well set to achieve that in a very young age. Well done. Well done. It's very impressive. And let's try to, the idea today of this chat is to really delve into leadership and hospitality and understand the challenges that the leadership, hospitality leadership faces today, and how they can learn things from you and your courses and what you are already sharing with the corporates, and actually influence or inspire people inside the independent hoteliers. Yeah, independent hoteliers that don't have that structure, that budget to get into leadership training and understanding. Sometimes the ladder is very short, so there's no way to move up the ladder to get promotions, and they get very comfortable where they are, not developing themselves as well. And I got some a little bit more numbers here just to build up for our conversation, because in hospitality, 52.8% of professionals say that leadership training is their top priority. However, about 48% are leaving their jobs for better pay and career growth. So even though they pointed that there is a need for leadership training, they cannot see that getting a result, right? So half want and half want to leave. There is another kicker here, that's organizations that invest in leadership development see 25% better business outcomes, while inclusive leadership teams outperform others by 21%. And in the industry that is battling with 4% monthly staff turnover and facing really high raising costs, that crisis in leadership that independent hoteliers face, that must be tackled now, because it's important to build leaders, to keep people, and then save money in the end of the day. So let's try to get into the challenges that because as Kovid said, you have trained more than 3,000 people. I don't know how many of those are in the hospitality business, but you probably see a lot of challenges that they face. So what are these biggest challenges that leadership, what are the biggest leadership gaps currently you see in the hospitality sector?
So I think if we see to our clients, now we don't tell any names, no hotels, no country, just in general. So one of the biggest gaps, leadership gaps, or let's say mistakes is done, is by micromanaging. So that means we have already experienced such hotels where maybe the hotel owner sits in the same hotel. He has a CCTV on and looks exactly what their employee is doing, what their GM is doing. And then if they see a small thing, instead of letting things first go, they micromanage. So they want to have control about each single small thing. And that is not good for the freedom of the GM, because the GM is here to manage the hotel and not the owner. Because since you mentioned independent hotels, that happens especially in independent hotels, but chain hotels, we have seen that also in chain hotels. So micromanaging is poison for team building, for leadership, and for setting up that hotel. I mean, another point is like fixing mistakes too late. There was one F&B manager, and he told us, okay, there was a function. So a big buffet, and he observed from the backside how the employees performed during that function to serve the buffet. And then he told us, the F&B manager, he observed everything for 1 hour, 2 hours. And then later on, after 2 hours, he came back to the employee and told what he has done wrong. So this is just fixing mistakes too lately. And this is part of the leadership program also, that we know how to handle this. Another mistake which is often done is that leaders take employees very often just as a temporary helper or as a gap filler. I mean, the turnover rate is very high. And if leaders expect from their followers or from their employees that they just stay for a short time, then they will just stay for a short time. I mean, this is a natural thing. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, you can say. So this is one big mistake, that in the mind of the leaders is they will not stay long anyway, so why should I take care? And the leader has to take care. That is the crucial, essential thing to reduce the turnover rate of employees and to increase the revenue.
Just to add on to that, since Kim mentioned about the self-fulfilling prophecy, we have seen that, first thing that you mentioned, Mauricio, that the hospitality sector has the highest turnover rate. So this is true. This is the highest among all the industry. Now, if we take that and let's think from the perspective of GM or owner, let's say, they know that the turnover is less. So it becomes like a confirmation bias, just that, okay, it's anyway going to be the highest turnover. So why shall I even train those? Because they will leave me. So why shall I invest tens of thousands of dollars if they will just leave me and my money will be lost? This is a wrong mentality and wrong way of thinking. And that, I think, creates a ripple effect. And that's why we have the highest turnover in this industry, because it just keeps going on and on.
And the question here is, okay, if the GM asks, shall we really invest our money in training that people if he runs away or she anyway? Then we must ask back, what if that employee stays in the hotel for a long time, but is not trained? Then it's not the employees who run away, but the guests, and the revenue will fall down.
Yes, I have this conversation many times, right? Yeah, if they ask, if I train them and they leave, and if you don't train them and they stay, right? What's more costly for you in the end of the day? I had a very interesting conversation with a GM a couple of weeks ago, where we are showing our platform, and before we show the platform, we're just asking questions, and he was telling us about the problems that he faced of having to train people over and get someone to train, and then the training is not consistent, right? Like the message, it breaks down over as it passes on from people to people. And I said, like, well, here you go. We have a platform that you can just have your training. It's a constant because it's digital, so they can, and it's like, yeah, but it won't work for us. Like, so it gets to that mindset that like, yeah, it's a problem, but there's no solution, right? And you get into that there's no solution, so we just do this. And I think that this mindset is very present in hospitality for some reason, and it's one thing that we need to work on. And I will connect that to our next question. That is, how does leadership development differ between the independent and the larger chains? As you mentioned before, that this is not only for independent hotels, but you see that in the corporates as well. So how does it different?
Yeah, if we see large chains, let's say chain hotels and like independent hotels, we must differentiate. The independent hotels are like one owner owned with their own team, local based, these hotels. While chain hotels are like international, could be international also, but could be national chain also. The main difference here, I think, and we have seen, is that the chain hotels, they have structure, they have process, they have systems that work globally. While independent hotels, they don't have particular systems. Maybe they have figured it out by themselves and created their own way of doing things, but they don't have a particular scalable system. So they do things on their own, which has both pros and cons. Here also in independent and in chain hotels, also both pros and cons. Now let's go over the chain hotels pros and cons, let's say a little bit, and then independent. And then we see how leadership gaps can be here. So let's talk about the chain hotels, like the big ones, no? International chain hotels. Here we have systems, we have processes, which is governed by the Asia Pacific region or EMEA region. They are governed by the corporate offices. So the unit hotels, for example, Hilton, I just named one, Hilton, India, Delhi, let's say, for example, or Marriott, Kathmandu, or anything. No? So these hotels, they have proper systems, they have proper training systems that go from their corporate level. Now, if we come to the independent hotels, these are individual hotels which don't have particular structure. They might have their own HR team or their own L&D team, so they have to figure it out themselves. With the international chain hotels, SOPs and training, L&D, they don't have so much flexibility to change. Let's say there is a new leadership concept that came. They cannot just adapt it. because it has to come from the international headquarter HQ. Then it has to come down to the regional HQ, the Asia Pacific or European region. And then down it has to come to the national HQ. Then it has to come to that Unicode. So it's really hard to change a particular system. So they have to really follow through what is given to them. They have to really follow through what is ordered to them. However, now if we come to the independent hotels, they have the freedom because they built the systems. So they were the one who owned the systems. So they can say, okay, that's leadership, new leadership. Let's try it. If it doesn't work, let's dump it up. Let's bring a new style. So they can really have the flexibility. Now let's see how this flexibility can affect with the independent hotels. If they use this flexibility to their advantage, it will be really powerful because that's what the chain hotels, their competitors, cannot do. So here's the competitive edge that they can bring out. But if not done properly, that can really cost them years of time. So that's where external experts like Impactias come in as to bridge this gap, to bridge the idea of hospitality from the top level till the bottom. So this top-bottom down waterfall approach. Now that's for the independent hotels. Now let's come to the chain hotels. With the chain hotels, as I mentioned, it's really hard for them to change and adapt. However, that new perspective will just throw some snow over their already existing pre-cultural SOPs, let's say. So what is set, it will just be the cherry on top onto that. Because they have systems that work partly, not 100%. So our concepts and our modules will top it up. We don't say that we don't completely change their whole system. We incorporate the SOPs and we build a full model that was previously partly installed. So here's how the leadership gaps can differ and how different ways of approach of training is necessary in a different style of hotel.
And Mauricio, you mentioned also the general corporate sector, how they differ from the hospitality sector. Now, let's have a look to the Fortune 500 companies and about the employee turnover rates. So in hospitality sector, we also must distinguish between the independent and the chain hotels. The chain hotels have a turnover rate of approximately 40 to 75 up to 80%. And this is huge. The healthy level is 10 to 15%. And these chain hotels have 40 to 80, let's say. Now, if we see the independent hotels, then the gap is even wider. It starts from 20% and goes up to 300% employee turnover rate per year. That is huge. And so if we ask the question, why is it like that? Then we can answer this with leadership. Because the Fortune 500 companies like Google and Co., they incorporate the full concept of the golden leadership concept, let's say. And they really fully implement that. That's why the turnover rates are so little, because they form the corporate culture with their leadership. Now, in the hospitality sector, it's different. Our research has shown that the hospitality sector, the leadership part over there, that the gold standard of leadership is only followed to some percentage, but not fully. I mean, that's why leadership is in the hospitality sector often insufficient. And that's why it's one of the reasons, of course, but it's a huge reason why the employee turnover rates in the hospitality sector are the highest if you compare it with all industries which exist.
So interesting. I never worked in a corporate. Okay, so it's very hard for me to speak when it comes to comparing corporate with independence. I never worked in any corporate company in my life just because I don't fit. I don't feel that my style of being fit a corporate box, right? I prefer to be creative, and I cannot deal with the way that my friends tell that their lives are. But I think that is really interesting to say that the corporate has structures that keep people stable in the job more than when it comes to hospitality or independent hospitality, because that box, the style of corporate, it seems to be by many people that refer on YouTube or the podcasts of that the corporate leadership is what causes mental health issues in so many people around the world. And this is something that I want to follow up on what you just said, that this framework of corporate that gives that structure, but at the same time, we see so many reports of causing also mental health issues. So what is a good leadership and what is the bad leadership that's included on this structure?
I mean, in short, we can say a good leader. No, first, let's see the bad leader. The bad leader will tell to the followers, go and do, go. But the good leader will say, let's go. So a good leader is a role model, is nurturing his people, takes care of his people. So that is essential. And nowadays, not only nowadays, in each time, we have to consider the generational change also, the generational change. We have more and more Gen Z coming into leadership and into employment of the hospitality sector as well as of the general corporate sector. So leaders must understand that Gen Z ticks differently than them. So that is very crucial. And just as a side remark, we as a team, Kovid and me, I mean, Kovid belongs to Gen Z. I belong just to Gen X. So that is our USP as a trainer team, because when we train in the halls and then the participants will get both perspectives from the Gen Z as well as from the Gen X. And additionally, maybe it's a little bit now, not exactly your question, just as a side remark, Kovid is from Asia. I'm from Europe. Kovid has done consultancy with thousands of Western people already. So Kovid is very familiar with the Western style of thinking, while I'm for a long time in Asia, so I'm familiar with the Asian style of thinking. And this is a great combination. So this cross-generational and cross-cultural team, which we present, might be quite unique in the world for the leadership training in the hospitality. Yeah. Sorry, maybe your question was slightly a little bit different.
No, I understand that the point. It's of course when it comes, I'm bringing a little bit of mental health because now July will be for us a month that will get more into leadership in hospitality, and we have a few podcasts that are about emotional intelligence and mental health in hospitality as well. So I was just trying to make a connection here. But when it comes to you guys have the leadership elite program, yeah. So as we're speaking about this, and how is that customized to different leadership styles? Because we got now into bad leadership, but good leadership, and how does this leadership elite program differs from the styles and experience levels when it comes to the hotel setting?
I mean, what normal trainers do, they come to the hotel, they provide the fixed training, and after the training sessions, they leave. This is one phase which they have. This will not be efficient. It's a waste of time, a waste of money for the hotels, and we don't recommend to do that. That's why we have developed a leadership development system, which is totally different, and it goes into 4 phases. Phase number 1 is that we have a needs analysis beforehand. So we go to the hotels, we talk with the stakeholders, we talk with the employees, we talk with the leaders, with the executive levels, and this is a very structured program, a structured needs analysis which we have. This is to understand the hotel, and nothing will leak out because we have a MOU, and our ethical understanding also belong to the hotel and not to others. So after this needs analysis, we know about the hotel in terms of leadership, especially. Then we know how we can adjust our training session specifically to the hotel, its SOPs, its ethical, philosophical background. And now we come in phase number 2, where the participants, the executives of the hotel, they will take the leadership gap analysis assessment. It's a long word. Okay. It's an assessment which they take, an online self-assessment, where they answer a couple of questions. And after that, we know where each participant stands. So here we go to the training itself, to the training hall. And here we identify where each of the participants, of the executives, stands in terms of leadership. So maybe sometimes one participant has a leadership style. You asked about the styles. The leadership style is on this level. And then we compare this with global benchmarks. So the global benchmark optimum might be here. So we compare this and then we can say, okay, the participants is here. So here's a gap. So here we come in with a gap analysis and with the training. So we want to close this gap, to bridge this gap. And so this is something what is rarely or even almost not done in the whole world, to close these gaps. And these gaps we close for each individual. So not for the whole group, but individually. Yeah. So this is a core in the training. Now we are just at phase 2. We have 4. So let's go to the phase number 3. Phase number 3 is where already 99% or 99% of all trainers ran away and don't see anymore the hotel. So here, even, I don't want to say now the most important part, but implementation of what they have learned. This is phase number 3. And here we are very active to encourage, support the hotel to implement what they have learned in the 2 phases before, or especially in the training phase. So what we do in phase 3 is, for example, we just sit in the lobby and then the participants can just approach us individually and ask, Kovid and Kim, I'm faced with this leadership challenge. What do you think? How can we change this in a very convenient atmosphere? And personally, they can ask us. And then we will discuss this in a coaching style. Or we can do, if somebody wants to have some shadowing, then we can do shadowing also. And so this is phase number 3, implementation. This is extremely important. Otherwise, the investment was just for nothing. Now let's come to phase number 4. I don't know if any training institute is doing that. No idea. Phase number 4 is, okay, from phase number 1 onwards, we closely work together with the L&D of the hotel, or those who are responsible for L&D. Could be a HR also, or somebody. And in phase number 4, we hand over all the proceedings, all the results, and all the training methods to the internal L&D of the hotel, because then we will pull out. And then it's a turn of the hotel to take over. And we want to see a strong L&D in the hotel, because we don't want to make the hotel dependent on us. We want to make the hotel self-dependent. If a hotel strives, if we can see the results, this is our satisfaction. And that's why we hand over all the proceedings to the L&D. We will pull out, but even then, we will be available in the background. If they have questions, we can come back and they can ask us any time. So these are the 4 phases compared to just leaders who have only 1 phase.
Let me ask something then about this gap. So just to picture really, so for our audience they have seen the process, how you guys work. But maybe let's bring some examples of maybe what is the most common examples, competences that you see in this gap between what you assess and what the benchmark is that you need to work on. What do you see that's recurring with most of the leaders that you work with?
Yeah, as Kim mentioned about the 4 phases, in that phase number 1, we already give them this online assessment for leaders. And with this online assessment, we assess their current score and the global benchmarks. Our research already shows, and we have the global benchmarks. Now, for example, just give you the worst case scenario, which has to be used the least, but is used also. It's fixing, let's say, to fix. And leaders use that all the time. So when we usually assess GMs and the leaders of the hotels, then they have very high score in to fix that style of leadership. So they have, for example, let's say 10, where the global benchmark is maybe 1 or even 2 or even 0 sometimes. So here we see a huge gap. Here they are using highest in this leadership style of trying to fix others, but it has shown by the research to have to be used the least. And here now what we do in our training, the second phase, is that we give them exercises after exercises, role plays after role plays, simulations after simulations, to give them behaviors that will reinforce that this is wrong tactics of leadership style. And we will reinforce them or enforce them with more concrete behaviors that they can replace them with. It's like, replacing an addiction, because we are sometimes addicted to some certain leadership styles. We want to fix them. We have this intrinsic, style to fix others. And it's like an addiction, or like a smoking or alcohol or whatever. And what we do is like a therapy. So we give this therapeutic behaviors to them and show, okay, GM or L&D or whoever, you are very high in trying to fix others, but you have to be here. Now, here are 40 plus behaviors which you can use to replace your old style of leadership and completely replace this with a new and much more efficient way of leadership styles.
And our challenge sometimes is to convince those hospitality leaders, to convince them that there are gaps. Because if a GM or whoever in the executive team, if they have worked already for 30, 40 years in the hospitality sector, then of course they have very successfully led already a team. However, they hit the wall again and again in certain cases, and they don't know why. Even though they are professionals already, we want to make them elite, so that available again. And so the leaders, sometimes themselves, GMs, whatever, they are not really aware where their gaps are. And this assessment can make them aware in a safe environment that nobody else will know, because our results we will not publish. Even in our training sessions, we will not force anybody to tell his or her results to the group. Also, the GM will have his results or her results only in front on the table, and that will not go outside. So
now you're saying something very, very interesting now, because bad managers and a toxic work culture. I brought some more members here. Across 1 out of 3 employees to walk away from the job, while research shows that 50% of employees with ineffective managers plan to quit within the next year. And you were saying about awareness of your leadership style, when awareness and bad leadership seems not to be, it doesn't go together. Like bad leadership, it starts with lack of awareness of what they do. And how to convince a manager to embark in a self-discovery journey when they are not aware that they are the problem? What's in it for them to engage in such a discovery? And here maybe you'll be talking to some hospitality hotel owners here that want to develop the GMs or the CEOs, and they're a little bit puzzled on how can I do that without micromanaging? How?
We have seen that what you said, Mauricio, is absolutely right, because bad leaders, they think they're the best leaders. Usually the ones who say I'm the best are the worst. So here it's really challenging. But however, what we have seen during we know we are connected with more than 100 GMs and are connected with many. And we have seen that usually they are not intrinsically bad leaders, but they need a catalyst. They need that spark. They need that fire. And when we go in their place and explain them how this leadership gap analysis works and everything, they have this eureka moment, oh, I have got that. Because they all the time, during all these 30 years or 40 years of experience, they didn't realize what was going wrong. They were leading bad because they didn't know how to lead good, not because they wanted to be bad leaders. So it becomes like a catalyst. So I think that being something coming up as a catalyst is number one, I think, to make bad leaders, let's say. They're not intrinsically bad, but circumstances. So that catalyst will be that first factor to spark the fire within themselves.
And once we explain our concepts more in detail, usually it's possible to convince them also to take the training. Of course, it always comes down to the finance. Now, the GMs will ask, okay, what is the ROI, training ROI? And here we have developed one training ROI calculator, which is worldwide quite unique, I would say. Here we can calculate, and in average, the training ROI is 2 months. So after 2 months, the hotel has reimbursed what came to 100% of ROI. Yeah, within 2 months. break even. Yeah, break even. Yeah, right. So we must see the cost of not having trained people. And here we must see that each employee in the hotel who leaves, they create huge costs. And these costs are up to 200% of annual salary. So especially in the top function. In the lower levels, it starts at 20%, but we are talking here about executive level. So if one executive earns $5,000, and then to let this executive go will cost the hotel $10,000 in that year. Now, if they invest a little bit, I mean, it's not only one executive, maybe others also will leave, maybe 5 or 6 because the turnover rate is so high. So if you calculate this, then let's say 5, 6 will leave this hotel. That means it's a damage of 50, 60,000 per year. Now, if that hotel invests $20,000, $30,000 into this gap analysis, then the hotel can really save a lot of money. It's not only money. Now, each hotel employee who leaves a gap. This has two sides. The gap is within the employees themselves. They will see, oh, my friend, my colleague went to another hotel. Now, I miss him or her. It's an emotional thing also. And then they might say also, maybe I also will leave now since my friend is also not here. And then it's the guest part also. So if that specific employee, they know exactly, Mr. Smith is coming today. And I know from Bangkok, I'm in Singapore. I know from Bangkok, he went to Bangkok before. And I know Mr. Smith wants to have 2 soft pillows and 1 hard one in his room. So if that employee leaves, then there's a gap. How will the staff know what Mr. Smith wants to have? So the employee is necessary for the satisfaction, for the guest satisfaction, because then the guest will say, oh, you don't know which pillow I want. So next time I will go to a different hotel, and the guest will leave maybe his loyalty program and go to the competition. So it's multifaceted.
True.
On these things, we have also made like videos of how these leadership gaps could help in their self-discovery journey in our YouTube channel. So if someone wants to really know how to get started, they can watch these videos also.
I'm going to put the links here. I'm going to put the links on the note. And that's a first gift then. We're going to put some links here for your videos and people that are maybe curious about being if they are or not the best. But I would start like this. If you ever told someone that you know everything that you need to know about your profession, it's time for you to get a refresher on your skills, because nobody knows everything that they need to know. So if you think that you know, go and get a refresher. You're probably wrong. But let's get to a second gift that here. Like if our audience now, after listening to watching your videos and learning about more about them, what would you give to them as a gift? Like some free actionable steps that they can take after listening to our podcast that would help them, independent hoteliers, to develop leadership internally in their teams.
Okay. First of all, maybe we can suggest 4-step freeze. And sometimes also independent hotels ask us, and then we would like to present this gift to them, what they can do. And that 4-step approach is, we call it TRUE, T-R-E, TRUE, because the first step is talent. So that hotel, usually we talk about independent hotels, first they should identify the talent in the hotel. And they have to do that internally by internal means. It's not just an emotional thing, but it has many, many, many facets to assess talent. And the second thing is to provide those talents with resources, with learning resources. This is the R. So we have talent and provide them with the resources. So that means the hotel should provide these talents with the appropriate learning resources so that they can upgrade themselves. And we not only talk about theory, the hotel should provide really hands-on experiences to these hotel employees that they really can experience leadership. So this is the TR. Then in TRUE, the next one is the U. The U means give the employees who learn about leadership, give them a chance to use it. And of course, in the hotel, we have real situations. in trainings, we have simulated situations. If we have training sessions, they can do many mistakes, and we hope that they do many mistakes because we can learn from them. Now, if we are in the real situation in the hotel, it's a little bit more risky. They cannot experiment much. However, TRU, the U stands for using what they learn so that they really can experience it. And the fourth in true is the E, and the E means enabling those employees to become a leader of a leader. Because really the best leaders, the strongest leaders create new leaders. And that is then very powerful also as a multiplier of a leader, which really can do a difference. So this is our true approach, which we sometimes recommend if we are asked.
Super interesting. True. Super interesting. But when we think about technology, we're moving forward, right? What do you think that technology like AI, well, we have to use the word, right? Otherwise keywords won't find us. But how do you think that technology or like coaching platforms, AI will play in leadership development? What role they will play?
Yeah, I think technology, we cannot just ignore it. It's usually said that if you cannot adapt with new technology, the new technology will replace you. No? So it's always that adaptation, not only with AI, it was always from the past. Because hotels, chain hotels, I don't mention the names, but some chain hotels are popular just because they innovated. Like there was one hotel chain which had the first ever TV inside, room. So now it's a big chain. But when it got started, that was the one hotel which was ahead of the competition. So I think adapting this technology is not only useful to say that we have the technology, but also to stay ahead in the competition, because hospitality is a blue ocean. It's a very competitive market. It's a very saturated market. It's a blue ocean. And to create a red ocean out of that, it's a challenge. And to create even on top of that, an economic moat or financial moat or let's say competitive moat is even more challenging. And I think technology will help here to create such a moats. And with AI, I think now the new hotels and hospitality chains, independent hotels, have the chance now to adapt AI to create their own unique edge, to sell to the new guests. Gen Z is coming up. So Gen Z is already adapted, but Gen Alpha, they are grown up with AI. So if they see a new hotel with AI or something with AI in hospitality, they will definitely choose because they are the decision maker in their homes already. Because more than 75% of the decision in home is made by the Gen Alpha kids. They will say to their parents, okay, parents, let's go to the Maldives in this hotel, because they have this AI in this. I think AI will definitely play a huge role in getting new customer acquisition, guest acquisition, and also to stay ahead in the market dominance part. Now, if we come to the second thing, which are coming up now, not yet there, but still coming up, with cryptocurrencies and blockchain technologies and simulations, these are the upcoming trends, like metaverse is coming up. So these are the upcoming trends the hotels now can prepare, because now they have the chance. With AI, many hotels are already adapting. So many an element, I think,
for tectomics. And tectomics is based on AI, on neuroscience, on psychology. It's a breakthrough research application to identify somebody's behavior and to behavior of other people. So yes, we have entrepreneurial mindsets. So we always want to create something new. We are never satisfied with the status quo. And we are already on the path to develop the next level, and also for the hospitality sector. Includes especially AI also.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. But when it comes to leadership development, do you think that there is a place for simulations, AI, metaverse, and all that these technologies to help leaders to become more aware of the gap that they have between global standards and where they are right now, and to develop these skills or businesses to become better leaders?
Definitely, yes. We are already on our way, and we have already created to some extent the simulations, and it's been proven that simulations can really help because he can be challenged with their assumptions. So they can be options because maybe in their life they are never challenged their pre-existing self-belief, and which could be negatives also. With simulations, they have the comfort. It's a comfort zone. At the same time, it's not comfort zone. So it's both at the same with simulations. That's the beauty of simulations. And such technology will definitely help in training industry also to see these gaps, and leadership gap analysis definitely be helpful in this.
Yes, super. So I'm very excited to see what it comes. But I have like this feeling that yes, we will build these amazing platforms where we can have the simulations and at the same time having AI interact with us, creating scenarios that challenge us, right? And then how to turn that learning to actually a human will be probably the next level challenge that we'll have, right? One thing is to be trained and believe that you know. The other thing is to actually interact with one being that may reject you, that may actually say no to you, that may actually get angry to you. So I'm really interested and really curious to know how we're going to move forward with trade developing our leaders. And as I'm on that note, what advice would you give to young professionals aiming to hospitality?
Leadership is a lifestyle opportunity, and upcoming leaders must really understand that they should not wait for any leadership position, but that they should start leading from the back without position. Soft skill, and research shows that in the career, 85% of a career is made up by soft skills, and here is the most important one. So please, upcoming leaders, lead from today onwards, e position or not, that does not matter. Start practicing, get your experience, get your positive, negative experience. There is experience, there is if somebody really wants to go deeper, then we also would recommend sometimes, like once or so, one GM, one HOD to shadow them for one day and to see what are in points, to see their views, then to learn them. That will give them then really valuable insights. I mean, leadership, respect. I mean, we must understand that respect cannot be good, but it must be worship.
Awesome. That very good message. Very cool chat with you guys. I'm very glad to have you here to share. We went over for quite a long time. We enjoyed much. We went very deep into understanding the leadership skills and the emotions that go behind. Thank you very much for sharing your time. And how can audience get in touch with you?
Yeah, thanks, Shu. Just to add a little bit, everything summarized. We have one example scenario for audience to imagine. I have maybe 1 minute or so to show you the picture we all discussed now. Let's play a game. And this game is of imagining. Imagine that you are a hotelier of a 4 or 5-star hotel. You are sitting in your hotel's lobby. Now, in this lobby, you have one receptionist smiling and waiting for the guest to come. Now, a guest comes into your and receptionist, they come together. Now, how your receptionist enthusiastically guest, that's leadership. And how personalized they make, how nice the service is, that's entrepreneurship. And the end of the checkout of this, how that's marketing. And in the comparative manner, we say LEM, leadership, entrepreneurship, and marketing will make or break your hotel. Focusing on only one will not help. Let's zoom out from this picture and see the whole picture. All of the behaviors that your receptionist saw, and that you saw. All of these are then encoded into your brain. And that's of neuroscience. That's what we call. And on this science of neuroscience, we have to is the behavioral patterns. And these behavioral patterns is mentioned just before pactomics. And this can to gauge and to gauge others. And that's pactomics. And again, into leadership alone. We discussed about leadership gap analysis already. So that's where we to see the gaps, fill in the gaps to make all the whole system work. I think, Nation, I would like to close it.
Okay, well done. Well pictured that really, really well. Now, Lem, out mind because it's a really good thing for leadership, entrepreneurship, marketing, and you're totally right. That makes or break the cycle of a hotel. How can our audience get and learn about Impact? Yes.
Yes, you can browse our website, impactyes.com, impact with IMPACT, and yes. So yes to impact, impactyes.com. And feel free to email us at Kovid, Kim. Kovid, very easy to remember. Kovid, like KID. Okay, yeah. So yeah, Kovid Kim at impactyes.com. You can email us, reach out to us at any time. In our website also, there's contact form. So everything works. So feel free. We are also in social media. So YouTube, I mentioned, in Instagram, we are also there, and with our personal. So yeah, that's how you can feel free.
And pactomics.com. No?
Perfect. I'll put those on the notes. Thank you very much for spending this time with us today. And that we'll be meeting each other probably for training.
Thanks a lot, Mauricio, and to land.
Yeah, it was better.
Very much. Thank you very much. I'll see you. Schulering, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.